Okay, we were just talking about Annie Oakley, and we talked about the gentleman that was so responsible for her becoming exposed to the world and attaining the great notoriety, which she so well deserved, by the way. That gentleman was Buffalo Bill Cody. And we have an item here that actually belonged to Buffalo Bill Cody. This pearl-handled 1907 Savage automatic pistol was presented to Buffalo Bill Cody by the Savage Firearms Company. It is engraved, and on the back strap, as you can see here, is engraved to Colonel Cody. We also, Buffalo Bill, a true Indian fighter, buffalo hunter, guide, scout, and everything else, eventually went on to start the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, which toured all over the United States and throughout Europe. Bill was a dynamic individual, and as you can see in this image here, he showed he know how to dress. He was a dashing man and dressed in full Western attire and was revered by people all over the world. This pistol was not only made and delivered to him, but in the factory archives, an image here shows the page from the factory archives. It specifically indicates that this was a special order, it was engraved, and it was presented to Buffalo Bill Cody. So this is, the provenance is impeccable on this particular gun. Speaking of provenance, this particular gun comes from the West Adams estate and is considered to be the most significant Savage pistol ever known. It carries a pre-sale estimate of $50,000 to $100,000. We talked about Annie Oakley. We talked about the man that made her famous, Buffalo Bill, and we talked about how famous Buffalo Bill was. Well, this next gun has something to do with the reason that Buffalo Bill became so extraordinarily famous. This .73 Winchester was once the property of a dear friend of Buffalo Bill Cody's, and that was Major North. Major North was an Indian fighter, as was Buffalo Bill. He was a true Western figure and a great friend of Buffalo Bill. And he was, in a certain way, very prominent in Buffalo Bill's general evolution to becoming famous. Up until this incident, Buffalo Bill was well known on the frontier, but back east, basically no one had heard of him. On this particular incident, Ned Buntline had come out west. He was a writer, and he was quite a writer. He would go on in great detail and take literary license and say whatever he wished. And he wanted a figure, a Western figure, for the center of what he was going to do. He was going to create these dime novels about a Western hero and make all these dime novels with all kinds of adventures. And he chose Major North. This is a gentleman he wanted to use. He knew he was a true Western figure. North, a very quiet, somewhat shy man, said, no, you've got the wrong guy. The man you really need to speak to is Buffalo Bill Cody. He knew that his friend Buffalo Bill was of such an outgoing nature. He would just fit in terrific with what Ned Buntline wanted to do. Ned Buntline took his advice, hooked up with Buffalo Bill, and from that point on, Buffalo Bill became famous, not just in the West, but all over North America and throughout the world through Ned Buntline's dime novels, and it was in part because of his friend Major North, who owned this rifle. Now, the rifle, by the way, was given to him by Buffalo Bill Cody. It is an inscribed 1873 Winchester rifle, it is also known that there is a Remington conversion revolver with a Buffalo Bill presentation to Major North also, which at the time of our description was still in the family of North descendants today. Further on, our research turned up a publication which covered the memoir of Frank's brother, Luther North. He states in an interview in March of 1927 issue of the American Rifleman in an article titled "The Truth About Wild Bill," and goes on to say, we were in the cattle business in the 70s after we quit Injuns with Cody for a partner. One day, up on our ranch on North Platte, Bill and me were out back of our ranch house shooting our Winchester 73 Model 44 caliber 8 square magazine. By the way, that's just exactly the type of gun we're talking about here. Another important thing is that about the time of the presentation of this gun is about the same time William F. Cody was just becoming famous as Buffalo Bill. So we don't know this for a fact, but could very well be Buffalo Bill's thank you to his good friend North for turning Ned Buntline onto him. And it carries an estimate of $200,000 to $250,000. We're going to go back in history a little bit on this next gun. This is a harmonica rifle, and it was made by Jonathan Browning. The Browning family, of course, is the famous family that's so famous for making Browning arms. This was the father of John Browning, and Jonathan Browning made this particular harmonica rifle. Now, a harmonica rifle carried a slug in the center, this slug right here, in the center, and it was much like a big heavy harmonica, and it had receptacles for 5 separate charges. Once you loaded it, put your percussion caps on, you could slide it into the gun, lock it with a lever, and when you were ready to shoot, cock the hammer and shoot. Once you'd shot, you'd loosen the lever, move the harmonica over a little, lock it again, and you could shoot again up to 5 times. Then loosen the lever, pull the harmonica out, reload it again, and put it back in your gun. So it was kind of a very early repeating firearm made by Jonathan Browning, but that's not all. It was purchased from the Browning family by Mr. Contes. This is part of the famous Contes collection of Browning single-shot rifles, which we'll be selling in this auction, and this is one of 2 guns that Mr. Contes actually purchased directly from the family. As I said, it descended down through the Browning family until Mr. Contes purchased it. The condition is fine, and it is estimated at $75,000 to $150,000. Okay, we're going back to the Civil War now, and Kevin Hoffman's fabulous sword collection. Back here is a U.S. officer's sword with a presentation on it to Paul Revere. I know, Paul Revere didn't live long enough to participate in the Civil War, but his grandson did, and this sword belonged to his grandson. His grandson was of the 20th Mass Infantry, known as the Harvard Regiment. And Paul Revere's grandson, with this sword, was at Gettysburg during that famous engagement, which also was a fatal engagement for him. He was killed at Gettysburg. The condition of this sword is very good to fine condition overall, carries a very conservative and realistic estimate of $25,000 to $35,000. When we think of Texas, one of the things that always comes to our mind if we're gun collectors or military aficionados is Texas Rangers, the magical word, these very famous band of lawmen that kind of helped to civilize the state of Texas over a long period of time. This next gun right here, a Colt, a very rare engraved Colt single-action Army, which once belonged to Jefferson Davis Milton. Jefferson Davis Milton, at one time in his career, in his lifetime, was a Texas Ranger. This is a fabulous gun with the carved mother-of-pearl grips, the engraving. This is one of the finest sheriff's models known. Jefferson Davis Milton was born on November 7th, 1861, near Marion, Louisiana, on a plantation called Sylvania. He was named for the President of the Confederacy, who was a personal friend of his father, General John Milton, Civil War governor of Florida. Lawman Jeff Milton, at the age of 18, joined the Texas Rangers. He was a ranger for 3 years. During that time, he became known for his speed and accuracy with a six-shooter. This is a beautiful gun, and as you can see in this close-up shot here, it has wonderful engraving. In this next image, there's Davis all geared out, ready to go out on business, and he looks like a true Texas Ranger to me. Later, he went to New Mexico as a cowboy detective for the Cattle Association and was deputy sheriff in Socorro County, New Mexico in the 1890s. He worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad and for the Pullman Company. In 1894, he became the chief of police in El Paso, Texas, and in 1895 became the deputy U.S. Marshal. He worked as an agent for Wells Fargo. In 1904, he was commissioned directly by President Theodore Roosevelt into the newly formed Immigration Services, USIS, where for the next 28 years he patrolled the southwestern border, apprehending smugglers and illegal aliens. Jeff Milton was a true Western lawman. He was involved in more gunfights than the other much more famous gunfighters of his day. He is credited with making the statement, "I never killed a man that didn't need killing." The gun is in very fine condition. It is lot number 1367, and it carries a pre-sale estimate of $150,000 to $250,000. Okay, we're going to move, well, we're still in the same period now, the period of the later period of the Western development. When we talk about gunfights, most Western aficionados, the first thing that would come to their mind is the gunfight at OK Corral, a truly historic occurrence in which Wyatt Earp, his brothers, and Doc Holliday had the infamous showdown with the Clantons and McClarys. Clantons and McClarys made out pretty bad in that deal. They should have left their guns, checked at the sheriff's office like they were supposed to. Wyatt was unscathed in this particular battle. This next item is a Colt single-action revolver that was sold or marketed by Samuel Hart, and together with a very rare Arizona Territory Spangenberg leather holster. What's he got to do with the gunfight at OK Corral? Spangenberg was in Tombstone at the time of the fight. Not only that, his gun shop was essentially across the street from where the gun battle took place, and according to various records, either the McClarys or the Clantons visited his shop, Spangenberg's shop, the morning of the shootout to buy ammunition. I also believe that the research indicated that one or more of the Earps showed up there to buy ammunition too. Been kind of interesting if they both showed up at the same time. Anyways, it's an extraordinarily rare lot from Tombstone. In this next photo, you see a close-up of Hart's marking. What Hart did was to acquire single-action, Marshall single-actions from the Army. He would recondition them, put them back in order, and then he would brand them with his brand, which was a couple of Harts and SH for Samuel Hart. So any of the guns that were worked on in his shop or that he sold carry this brand. There's only a handful of these guns known, this being one of them. But perhaps even more rare than the gun is the loop holster. This loop holster is a Spangenberg loop holster, and so marked Spangenberg Tombstone A period T period. The condition in general is very good, and the pre-sale estimate on this historic lot is $35,000 to $45,000.